Yeah, let's just call the meeting to order. We'll hear a motion to accept the minutes of the October 11th, 2023 meeting.
So moved. Second.
Moved in second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, we got the communications, WPCF monthly operating report.
Yep.
October 2023.
So this month, we averaged 5.5 million gallons of flow. We were a little late sending it out because we were trying to get our lab samples from our outside lab. We didn't get the last week, but I averaged everything we had. So far we have maximum of 10.7. That's a daily flow. The peak daily flow is 15 in the beginning of the month. Average 98.7% BOD removal and 98.3 TSS. Estimating will be under the nitrogen by about 18 pounds. It could be 20, it could be 15, somewhere in that range, which is pretty good considering you see we had 1,200 pounds come in this month on average per day based on the flow. So that's probably 400 to 500 over what we normally have. Phosphorus, about 2 pounds under the limit, which under the year will be even more than that. And we averaged 19.4% cake solids and 2.89 on the E. coli.
We've got the engineer's report, October 2023.
Yep, this one should be pretty quick. Yukon, we just had a discrepancy in pump hours. We realized the check valve was sticking. Sometimes you just get a little corrosion or you get some debris in it. Cleaned it out. It's been pumping normal since. We pulled pump one at Stanley, cleaned some debris out of the impeller, and we're going to be cleaning the wet well this month as well. With Patrick Flood also will be cleaned next week. Batterson Park Pump Station responded to a transducer fault. The intrinsic safety barrier actually failed, which caused the fault, so the transducer was okay. That's a box that's used in line with the pumps, so if you have to drop, basically it'll fault the transducer out. We installed the spare from the plant, and we are ordering a second one for a critical spare. On October 22nd, we pulled pump one at Snowberry. We had high amps. We didn't find any debris. However, the wet well was kind of dirty. So we cleaned the wet well, and we're cleaning the street before it gets cold out. Patrick Flood and Yukon pump stations. We installed leaf gates, basically just a hinge on the gate that we can open up to help with leaf removal in the fall. Pump station collection systems. We began replacing the Motorola batteries. They basically provide backup for the on-call systems in the event of a power outage. We replace them every 2 to 3 years. We jetted Tungsten Street, Pinnacle, and Snowberry. We cleaned the vac storm drains at Knollwood and Tanglewood. We also cambered those. They thought there was a collapse in the storm drain. They had a small sinkhole on top, but it wasn't affected. We also were up at 234 South Road, Fairview Circle. Actually, two of the homeowners there had issues with their grinder pumps. It was probably in their own lines. The force main and everything was clear on our end, so we provided the maps and sewer files for the contractors to look at. We continued to inspect and clear right-of-ways. Inwood Lane, West. 234 South Road. So you know where the playground is, and then Fairview's on the right.
Yeah.
So they have grinder pumps, because at a first glance you're like, why didn't that go to South Road? Because that's force main all the way up the hill.
Yeah.
So that goes all the way up to Garden Gate, dumps in at the top, and then goes down to Batterson. So they were having issues with, I think the line is almost 800 feet to the top of Garden Gate. So on their property, either their check valve was stuck or they had an issue with the line. So the contractor, we went out there, verified ours was good, and he was starting to look at the homeowners. So we gave him the sewer maps and everything else.
So the houses on South Road are on the sewer. Yeah.
Some are.
But some are.
Some are. And then Fairview and those
Are not.
Correct.
Right, Orchard's not. Yeah.
correct, because those all go up to the top of Garden Gate, and then those get dumped down to Batterson at the top, but they're pumped all the way up to Garden Gate. October 6th, we changed oil in primary clarifier 3. We had that online when we were doing the 15 million and everything was flooded. We still had a 4th primary to put on, but we didn't need to use it. We performed oil changes on the grit vortexes 1 and 2. Performed oil changes on primary 1, 2, 3, and 4. All the sprockets and units were greased with inspections before the winter. We found a fault on one of the mixers. We actually had a similar fault on another tank last year. What the electrician thinks happened was when they pulled the wires, they either got kinked or they got caught in the conduit. So there's a little break in the line and it shorts and then it faults the mixer out. So last time we pulled new lines, we'll probably end up doing the same on this mixer. Change the brakes on the electrician's van along with oil. We're putting in new polymer filters on the dewatering systems. So basically all the water for the mixing for the polymer is our effluent flushing water. They had a 300 micron filter on it, but we were still getting little, almost like algae on it. So we put in 50 micron with an automatic flush cycle. So that's been keeping the polymer delivery consistent. And it's been helping with the dewatering as well. We changed the oil and dewatering presses 1 and 2. They were also greased. And we began cleaning the UV building. The UVs were shut off October 31st. And we'll be cleaning, inspecting, and getting ready for winter storage. That's about it. And then for plans and approvals, we're still waiting on the lateral report so we can cover that in December's meeting. And the only other thing I had was a phosphorus chart that I made. Let me just see if I can pull it up. So this was the chemical costs versus the total phosphorus for the past 5 years. So number 1 here would be 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Orange is your costs. Your total P is actually your blue, and your green is your limit. So you can see we've been under it. But before we did the fermentation tank 2 to 3 years ago, you can see where the costs were. You're pretty much on average about 50,000 a year, up to 70, 75, 80. And then now with the tank, you're pretty much down to 10,000. Over here, you can kind of see what the invoices were coming in annually for all the deliveries of chemical we had. So obviously 18, 19, 20, 21. And then if you look at the past 2 years, there's literally only these deliveries here. So there's a huge difference. And then this delivery is actually for next year. We just have it in the storage tank. So essentially this year, we only spent about $7,000 on chemical versus over 70,000 a couple of years ago. So that tank's made a huge difference.
The vendor's not happy with you, huh?
No, they come much more often now, and it's kind of awkward, but yeah, sales reps. So, but it's good. It's been working very well. So
when we were talking about the budget last go round,
Yep.
there was some big question marks, I guess, on our trucking and stuff like that for the solids, and then
yep.
also the electricity and stuff. Do you have any?
So like total costs, like they're still up, obviously. HI Stone, so we send them a PO in the beginning of the year based on what the contractual cost is. They were up to 600, I believe it was 638,000. So that's going to be what it's going to be. The electrical, we might be a little under. We were 135 for stations, 2 something for the plant. So that was obviously increased too. A lot of the trucking cost is diesel and ash disposal. So there's 2 ways we can deal with it. We either send out less, which we really can't because the product is what it is, or we basically make it thicker. So when you see, the cake solids here, they're 19%, right? We're targeting now with all the filters and the changes we're doing with the polymer system, 21%. So it helps us basically send more volume out, send less volume, but more solids, if that makes sense, because it's thicker.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing with that is it's kind of the law of diminishing returns because you spend more in polymer to make it thicker. So if you're a merchant facility and you're sending out 60 tons a day, it may make sense to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we send out 15 to 18 tons a day, your polymer costs are going to exceed what the trucking is. Not exceed it, but it's yeah. So 21, 22, I think is going to be the sweet spot. And we're there this month. We've actually been doing a ton of testing with the new system we had in there. So That'll help a little bit, but unfortunately, it's just that's what MDC is paying to burn. And then they have their costs too, so.
So, at what point, what is the trigger, I guess, as far as the cost goes, is it ash, the weight of the ash, or is it the volume that we?
A lot of it is disposal. MDC obviously has huge operating costs. A lot of it, my guess would be diesel. I mean, to put in perspective, when I started here 8 years ago, it was $278 for disposal of solids. I saw it go to $350, $430, and even $430. We were like, this is double from almost double. Now it's $630. So I don't know where it's going to stop. I know like they closed the trash plant in Hartford because they didn't want them burning that. Ash disposal is hard. They used to have lagoons everywhere. Now they don't want them putting them in there. I don't know how high it's going to go, but I would be surprised if this year it jumps. This year going into next year, if it jumps as much as it did last year. You know, I'd say the primary cost is just hauling of diesel. You know.
Now, is MDC the only one that does dispose of it now?
There's a couple in the state. You can go to Naugatuck.
Bristol.
They used to, they don't anymore. The only gigs right now are Naugatuck, MDC, Waterbury still burns, but they've had some issues burning. West Haven, maybe. That's it for the whole state. And I know just from when I was with Veolia, we had Naugatuck as a plant. We were taking trucks from Rotterdam, Poughkeepsie, New York.
Yeah.
There's just nobody wants to burn it, but they don't want to land apply it either. It's got to go somewhere. It's just similar to the trash issue. They don't want to burn it in Hartford, and I'm not picking sides or anything, but some of it, or in other areas, then it goes on a train with 16-cylinder diesels, goes 1,000 miles and gets dumped somewhere else. So it's a hard discussion. You can make Milorganite out of it, you can land apply it, but now with PFAs, that's a hard one to sell too. So Maine had in this old plant when they had composting, that was a big deal because you can compost in the state. You finish the plant and they're like, oh, we don't want it. And then I know in Maine now they're dealing with the PFAs because you can make fertilizer, Milorganite, which Mill is for Milwaukee where it originated, Org is for the organics, and Nite is for nitrogen. That's why they call it Milorganite. They were putting it on farms. Grass loves it, turns into like lush green field, but then the cows eat it and they're getting PFAs in the milk. So
no good.
It's a hard conversation, but so long story short, we'll see what happens next year. I mean, we certainly look for options, but in this state, that's pretty much the only game in town. And if you don't go to Hartford and you basically are like, oh, we're going to go with a different hauler and try to go somewhere else, your options get so bad really quickly. So.
And then they might not take you back.
That's happened before. There was 2 plants I won't name right now that did that, and the hauler didn't want to take it, and then Hartford had issues just scheduling too, and so then you get into real pickle, you know. But
so MDC, would they charge all the towns the same rate, or do they play games?
No, they're pretty. I mean, it depends on what your agreement is with your hauler. So we pay HI Stone directly. We have the cost with MDC, but that's basically through the contract with HI Stone. If you were sending them, you know, terrible cake solids every day, I mean, you're probably going to get a call because they're burning. The burning would be terrible too. But if you're pretty consistent, I mean, we fill out a form that says, hey, here's our process. Here's what I expect to send. And we're pretty close, plus or minus 1 or 2%. So
you know if they do any kind of cogeneration or anything from that thing?
They have some of it. I know they're looking at, like, currently they're looking at some stuff right now. I know they just had a lot of rehab on their 3 incinerators because they operate 3 of them. I think they take some of the heat off of them for energy, but I don't think it's a complete cogen system yet. I know they're talking with a company. Farmington was talking with a company too, but it comes down to permitting. And that's if the state is shutting down trash plants right now, trying to convince them to do cogen and burn something different. It's a difficult
Mhm.
sell.
Hmm.
So,
Listing of property, we can talk about that yet, but
yeah, these two we put on, it was just, the 2 lot subdivisions. With access from Red Oak Hill. I was gonna go more into these next meeting because I didn't have any of the laterals or the specifics. But it was basically 114 Red Oak Hill and 1600 New Britain Avenue is affordable housing. Right on New Britain Avenue. I think they're already digging there, to be honest. I mean, we have plenty of capacity, so that's not an issue.
any other questions on the engineer report?
Well, let me just ask.
Yep.
I don't know what it's now or later, but about the capacity issue.
Yep.
About the new development behind Tufts Community College.
Mhm.
Which was shared with Plainville and us.
Like split half and half,
Right,
yep.
split, yeah, is that all done now? And is that?
I have to check, to be honest. I haven't heard anything and I almost never go out that way.
Yeah.
I can check.
haven't been out that way
I
either.
haven't either. It's like at the very end, the last time we were out there was when we had the issue in the manhole with like the flow meter and we told Plainville basically to come clean it out. We helped them with it,
Right,
but that was 6-7 months ago. I haven't been out that way, but I can take a drive out tomorrow and see.
yeah, I was just wondering how that worked out between
I
you
know
guys and Plainville.
it's been okay. I know when I was out there last time, they were still working on it. And I don't think it was close to being done, but they go up pretty quick now, so I'll check.
Right, any new business? Well, unfinished business. Any other business? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn? So moved. Okay, moved in second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.